Welcome to the Harmony Channel. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you're hitting the subscribe deal. Make sure you're hitting the likes. Make sure you're sharing this show and this content with all your friends and family. Jason Whitlock here, your host. Shamika Michelle, I believe, is here with us now as well. We're going to start today's conversation. Shamika, is Shamika here? And I just want to see Shamika's face. Oh, Shamika's here. There we go. Shamika's here. You look great. Shamika, you got to let me set up this conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about Kanye West and what he revealed. We're going to talk a little bit about the movie Sinners. And we're going to start off talking about Karmelo Anthony and his family. And I'm connecting it to Sinners, the movie Sinners that we've both seen. And so give me a second to frame this up, and I'm going to get right back to you. So last night, I'm can't sleep and said, oh, I got to go see this movie Sinners. It's getting all this attention. It opened at $60 million. I've seen the commercial. I didn't know what it was really about, but, you know, the trailer kind of looked like it was woke and it was going to be some racial story. Anytime there's a movie about black people and they dial the clock back to the 1930s, 40s, you know what you're going to get. And so I go see the movie Sinners, 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, first thing is like, holy crowd, look at this crowd. It's Monday night in Nashville, and there's a big crowd. This movie is clearly having impact. That it opened to 60 million. It's Monday night. People got to work the next day. I got to work the next day. What am I doing here? So it's having impact. It's reaching its intended audience. There was a lot of black people inside this theater. Monday night, 10 p.m. And then I sit down to watch the movie, and I'm like, man, what is this? This is a hot mess. And this has a clearly racial theme, a clearly victimhood theme, a clearly white people are the devil theme, and it's allegedly some horror movie. The plot and the storyline seems ridiculous. The horror part of the movie isn't really horror. This movie's not intended to scare you, in my opinion. Having seen The Exorcist and Damien and other movies, Halloween, blah, blah, it's supposed to scare you. This movie does not. This movie has an explicit agenda, theme, narrative, and we've seen it over and over, from Get Out to now this movie Sinners. They all beat the same drum beat. These evil white people and what they've done to black people. And this is some sort of musical, alleged horror deal with no consistent storyline. And so when I'm watching this and I'm watching the reaction of the crowd and I'm watching how many people came to see it, and I'm sitting there, you know, I'm probably the oldest person in the theater, seemed like a very young crowd. Again, 10 at night, movie goes past midnight. This isn't some movie intended for older people. Older people have things to do. They're not up that late. This is directed at young people, and young people are there. And they seemed to enjoy the movie. First time I've been in a theater that was filled with black people, there wasn't a lot of conversation and talk. No one was talking during the movie. People were enjoying the movie and taking it in. I was not enjoying the movie. And so at the end of it, I was like, this is what they're feeding young people. And it's working. It's generating millions of dollars. And it made me go, hey, man, Whitlock, you've been arguing that this Karmelo Anthony thing, as it relates to Austin Metcalf, has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with black culture. And to some degree, I still stand on that point firmly, because black culture is programming young black people to have racial animus. And so when you're down in the weeds and have been a part of so-called black culture, the black community or whatever. It's like you understand things on one level, but if you're just the average white person that either has seen this movie, heard about this movie, saw the trailer of this movie, have seen similar movies like this where the whole plot line is white people are evil, I don't blame white people for thinking like, hey man, these guys have been programmed to hate us by Hollywood, by the education system, by popular culture, by music. Everything they're ingesting and feeding into them tells them hate white people. And so I can't really blame them for saying, hey, he killed Austin Metcalf because he hates white people. I don't personally believe that. And I've stand by my argument that he's been a part of a culture that triggers young black people. If there's something disrespectful that happens to you, you must unleash disrespect and potentially violence at that person to stand your ground and draw a line in the sand that you can't be disrespected. But if I were a white person, I would sit there and say, this ain't disrespect culture. This is just the outgrowth of the programming that says hate whitey, hate whitey, hate whitey, be violent to white. This movie ends with a scene, and I'm sorry, I am going to blow the ending of the movie. I am going to, what do they call it? Spoilers. I'm going to spoil part of the movie, but to be honest, you don't need to go see it. It's a bad movie. But at the end, there's this, here, let me walk you through the beginning of it. There's this theme that Michael B. Jordan has a twin brother. He plays both characters. They're both from Mississippi. They've spent the last 7, 8 years in Chicago, I think working for Al Capone and making money. And they drive back down to Mississippi, their hometown, after they discover that, hey, Chicago's no different than Mississippi. They're both equally racist, so we might as well live in Mississippi. They drive down to Mississippi, and all in one day, they buy a barn or a building out in the middle of the woods somewhere, and all in that same day, they buy the building, they turn this abandoned building, barn, whatever, into a nightclub, all in the same day, and they get a big crowd opening night. All the black people in Mississippi come to their nightclub, and somehow they drop in an Asian couple that was running the biggest store, it looked like, down in this part of Mississippi. They drop them in, and they drop one white woman in who likes one of the Michael B. Jordan characters and used to sleep with the Michael Jordan character. They drop her in amongst all these black people. So you got an Asian, you got this white woman, and then also in the movie, they drop in Native Americans. They're also part of the good guys that try to warn people about this white demon or vampire that's going around converting people to evil by biting them, and they end up radicalizing, or this vampire radicalizes 2 other white people, and so the black people are at the club, the nightclub, they're having sex, they're dancing, they're twerking, they're playing soulful, good music, and the evil white man shows up at the door, and he wants to bite and infect these people with his wickedness. And oh, I forgot one thing. At the very beginning, they bought this building from a racist white man who used the N-word and then apologized, or used the word boy. Yeah, used the word boy, not the N-word, I think. Used the word boy, and he apologized for that. And so they established at the very beginning, there's this other white man that's just racist who they bought the building from, who called them boy. And again, now you have all this other stuff, them driving down, buying the building, going to buy supplies to cook all this food and to sell this whiskey. And the movie comes to a head when the evil white man shows up at the door with two other evil white people, and you have this standoff, and they've shown you, they're like, okay, the point of it is they've shown you that the black people, the Michael B. Jordan character, they're criminals. They shoot two black men in the street, basically for no reason. At the party or throughout the day, you're seeing other black people screw married women who tell them that they're married. They're smoking weed and using drugs. There's an alcoholic that's involved. And so they show you all the pathologies and dysfunctions of black people. But the overall point is, yeah, you got these problems, but you're not evil and wicked like these white vampires who are running around biting people black and white and converting them to the wickedness of whiteness. And so they have this clash. And the Michael B. Jordan character survives, and this other guy that plays the banjo or guitar, he survives. And when Michael B. Jordan survives, the banjo player, the guitar player goes back to the church that his father runs, and Michael B. Jordan hangs around this building where all this death and craziness has happened, and he grabs a gun and waits for the guy that he bought the building from. And we don't ever understand why he waited or knew they were coming, but that guy that he bought the building from shows up, it looks like, with 20, 30 other white people that are all white men that are the KKK, and out of nowhere, and this has, I'm just telling you, it makes no sense how they got to this ending, that Michael B. Jordan is waiting out in the woods and he pulls out a machine gun and kills all the white KKK guys. And then out of nowhere, the black woman that he was sleeping with, who died earlier in the movie, she now shows up in a vision nursing a baby with her breast, and it's Michael Jordan's baby, and he goes over and comforts the baby and the woman. And I'm like, I've just watched the worst movie in the world, and the point of it is that, yeah, black people, you got some problems, you do some shady stuff, you shoot each other in the street, you use drugs, you drink to excess, you like to twerk and dance, you have sex with married women, but these evil white people are the real problem, and it's racist. And so I say all that to say, if you're being fed a steady diet of that over and over and over again, and there are countless movies that feed you that steady diet, I understand why people say you've eaten this diet every day of white people are evil and racist and you need to kill them, because that was the point of this movie. You need to kill these white people. I'm not confused that white people are saying, hey, you killed Austin Metcalf because he's white, because you've been programmed to do that. I get it. And I sit there and say, this movie, which is making $60 million, and then when they put and I'm gonna call this Austin Metcalf, Karmelo Anthony aftermath, the aftermath, not the actual murder and killing, but the aftermath is just another movie script where they have convinced you that black people are so in love with killing white people that we'll send $500,000 to the killer of Austin Metcalf. I'm suspicious about where the money is coming from. I think it's NGOs, I think it's George Soros, I think it's leftists. But the people that think otherwise and just like, hey, no, this is what black people do in America, they will donate money to someone who kills an innocent white person because they're so concerned about that black person's defense. I get it. I get why you feel that way. I disagree with you, but I get why you feel that way. And you're looking at Karmelo Anthony, was reported. Him and his family, they're moving up. They're like the Jeffersons. Murder for money, money for murder. Kill a white person, get $500,000, move to another neighborhood. That's Karmelo Anthony as George Jefferson moving on up. Yeah, we're moving on up to the top, to a deluxe apartment in the sky for killing a 17-year-old white boy. Amazing. I want to bring Shamika into this conversation. And I'm sorry, Shamika, it took me that long to set it up, but I just had to set it up. Am I wrong about my read on this movie, Sinners?
Jason, I think you were just as confused as I was. What I told you, I went to see the movie on Sunday before you even suggested that we go. What I didn't say was that I was on a date. And so I was watching the movie, you know, I'm looking, enjoying myself. And then when it gets to the point where I realize these white people are vampires, they show the eyes red, I looked over and I said, what did you bring me to see? Because I had no idea what I was going to watch. I just kept seeing people talk about it and how great it was. And if you know, you know. And if it went over your head, then this, then that. And I was just thinking, yeah, it just went right over my head. I saw some symbolism, as I was telling you. I definitely thought it came across as white people evil. I had a problem with the women in the movie, the three main characters of the women who just really seemed to be feminist to me. One woman clearly stated she was married, but then walked away twitching and looking back to see if he was watching her behind as she walked off. And then the white woman that had a few drops of black in her obviously was married, but she said she didn't even want to be white. She wanted to be black. And then the lady that was into voodoo or whatever you want to call it, how she just let him come back and was like, oh, your body remembers me. Well, how long had he been gone that he just rolled back on you and it's like nothing ever happened? I didn't like the way those women were portrayed. So it was just a few things in the movie that I didn't like. But I must say, you know, I think this guy is a keeper because we both thought it was silly. It just was, you know, we enjoy hanging out together, but the movie, I feel like Black people sometimes need something to be so deep and so spiritual and so, oh, we've been victimized that we just look for anything. It's like, you know, we're just hungry for somebody to say, you know, we're victims and life was hard and it's still hard and help us and they hate us and they wake up every morning thinking about us and we need to be careful. And I just don't live like that. It's, you know, but I would still tell people to go see it for yourself. I just thought it was silly.
I think we've so made the South into a cartoon character that people will believe anything about, oh, and I know this is a horror movie and it's not supposed to be in any way reality based, but it's almost like we've so fictionalized the South, particularly Mississippi, that we think everybody that existed in Mississippi in 1920, 1930, 1910, that every single waking moment of their existence was, oh, I hope the KKK don't show up and kill us. And that's not to minimize the KKK, but when you were close with grandparents that lived in the South, and I'm talking about when you're my age, and you live with grandparents, and you have first-hand accounts of what their life was like. And yes, there was racism. Yes, there was a KKK element. But that's a once a week, once a year, once every 2 years, something happens where but they have fond memories of their upbringing and the joy they felt and the experiences they had. And we've turned everything that happened in those days, that every day was the Holocaust revisited, and they were nearly put to death every single day. And every encounter with white people was this harrowing near-death experience. It's been turned into a cartoon. And so I know when I saw like, oh, this is set in Mississippi, I go, here we go. This is going to be a cartoon version of, and I'm not trying to defend white people in Mississippi. Yes, they used the N-word. Yes, they had Jim Crow laws. Yes, there was friction between black and white. Yes, I get it. But this constant drumbeat that they're pumping into young people, and I listened to a young couple walk out of the movie theater, and the young girl who looked like she was 20, 21, she's telling them, I can't believe I got everything about this movie. I got, this movie was great. I understood everything. I can't believe you don't understand what happened. And the young brother that was like, he was 20, 21, he was like, yeah, this vampire thing, I just didn't get, the movie lost me. But, it's like me, I tweeted out like, hey man, this movie is trash. Whoever wrote it needs to burn in hell. And the initial reaction over social media is, oh, you just hate everything black. And they don't realize that they've been convinced that everything black must be defended. And Hollywood has figured that out. And the music industry has figured that out. And the LGBTQ have figured that out. Everybody's figured out, transgenders have figured that out. Hey, let's paint every issue as black because black people will defend it and say that if you don't like it, it's because you're racist or your hole's brown and my coochie's pink. This is all trash. This is the degradation of culture and art and society, but no one wants to say it because like, no, those are black people doing it. And in order to be black, I must defend this. That was one of the, and I've seen a lot of bad movies recently because they don't make good movies anymore, but that is one of the worst movies. And I was halfway embarrassed that Michael B. Jordan lent his name and credibility to the movie. How did he read that script and say, yeah, I want to star in this. I want to play 2 roles in this movie?
Yeah, that's the thing I was thinking, like, why would he do this? I do think that it was good for him to actually play twins because I do think that he did a good job giving us a slight difference with the twins. So I thought it was probably when it comes to him being an actor, it was his, it showed his acting ability. He could exercise his chops, as they say. So I thought that was a good thing that he actually attempted to do this because I'm sure it wasn't easy. That's the part that I liked about it, that I feel like it stretched him a bit and just helped him in his acting career, made him a bit better. But the rest of it, I was thinking, he is too good of an actor. He is Michael B. Jordan. Why would he do this movie and lend his name to this? Because as you were saying, it is now the narrative that everything black has to be defended. Everything white is so terrible. I know that people, and I was raised in the South, and my family is from further south. So even when we have like family reunions, I'm going further south. People think that I sound very country. If you heard my family, you might not even be able to understand what they were saying. And I've heard people, post on social media or say, when you see the Confederate flag, that we should be afraid or we should be scared or we should want to take it down. And that's just not the sentiment around here. When we see a Confederate flag, most of us feel nothing. It's part of history. We don't get scared. We don't see it flying from someone's porch and think, oh my God, they're going to drag us off and kill us. I've never felt that. I've even walked across the street while the Klan was gathering. There's a town about 20, 25 minutes from me where they were still in the day having Klan meetings, Klan rallies. it was no big deal. We were not afraid of them. Now, of course, I'm sure my grandmother, who is 91 years old, she has told us stories about racism. We understand that racism exists. We know that the Klan was horrible and the things that they did to Black people were really bad. I get that. But as far as me, someone born at a later time, that's just not my story. And so I can't pretend and walk around every day angry and feeling oppressed every day as if I actually lived during those times. I didn't. I didn't have those types of issues. And I think it makes Black people upset. You know, they may say, oh, the movie's too Black for MAGA. Well, great, because I just didn't have that type of experience. And I'm not going to pretend and live in a way that makes people happy by feeling angry and bitter. That's just not my story. And it's the same when it comes to men. I'm told I'm a pick me. It's not my story that N words ain't shit. I just don't feel that way. So I'm with you, Jason, but I enjoyed myself because of who I was with. But the movie, yeah, I won't be watching it again.
What do you think of my take that this type of movie making, the music, TV shows, that maybe I got a blind spot here and that Carmelo Anthony has been radicalized by a culture and that maybe part of the reason he did stab Austin Metcalf is because Austin Metcalf was white?
I do think that they constantly teach young people white people are inherently evil, Black people are oppressed. I think I shared with you how my daughter, when she was in high school, one of the assignments was to write a story to a Black woman or write a story to Trayvon Martin's mother or a Black woman and apologize because they're so oppressed and they are, you know, the most disrespected people in America. And I was angry by that because that's not the story that I want my daughters to grow up with and walk through life with. And I do think that there's been so many assignments that I've had to show up to the school and say, no, not my children. You won't teach them that. I can remember my daughter doing a project, maybe fifth grade, and it came across as if she was so oppressed. And I was thinking to myself, you live in a 3-bedroom, 3.5-bath house. There's 2 Mercedes and an Escalade in the driveway. You have it much better than maybe little Sarah over here who's coming to school from a trailer park. There's no way I'm going to allow you to walk through life as if you're oppressed. So that kind of opened my eyes that I needed to be a lot more aware of what's being taught in the school, but they do have a Black Lives Matter month or week here where they teach the kids all of these things. And it wasn't until I went to the principal and said, hey, what we're doing to our kids is terrible. And we had a conversation because that he said he didn't even realize it. He was just going along with the curriculum that had been put in front of him. They told him to do this Black Lives Matter week, and he was just doing it. But he hadn't really paid attention until I spoke up about it. So I do think they're teaching the kids oppression, and I wouldn't be surprised if Carmelo Anthony felt like, I'm not going to let this white boy tell me what to do. If he actually said, put your hands on me and see what happens, he was expecting to be able to retaliate in some type of way. So, you know, I do think that's what we're teaching our kids. I just didn't teach mine that.
I think we're also teaching it to adults. And when I look at Carmelo Anthony's family and I look at how they're fundraising off of this, and they've now changed the fundraising, what they can spend the money on, and there's a sense of entitlement of like, yeah, I know my son killed a white kid, but nobody knows how much racism and victimhood we've experienced here in America and our ancestors did. And so even though my son killed somebody and I should be ashamed, like, oh, what did I do? Even if it's not your fault, you should still be introspective and self-aware, like, just out of my child that I developed in this house, he killed a 17-year-old. Instead of that, they're the victims. They are worthy of a fundraiser and the financing of, hey, we need additional safety. We need a better house. Carmelo's not. It's like the adults have that I'm owed a debt mentality. They're watching the same stuff in television, in movies, and in music that's teaching them that you're owed a debt, you're entitled, and it's their mentality is actually infecting their kids. And I'm just this movie just kind of made me rethink a bit of what I was saying about the Anthony family, and just I do feel some sympathy towards them as it relates to the fear, because I would imagine they are getting death threats or harassment that make them feel unsafe. But I know a solution to that. If Karmelo wasn't out on bond and was already in jail serving time, that time they'd feel a lot safer. Karmelo actually would probably maybe be safer unless he'd be settling into prison life, because I think he's going to get convicted. The time he serves right now could be counted against the time that he's likely going to get. So maybe rather than relocating to a better neighborhood and a better house, if Karmelo relocated back to jail, everybody would be safer and there would be less animosity towards the parents.
Jason, I do think that regardless of what happens, there are some people that are just radicalized on either side. But I do think it could have helped if the parents would have at least said, we hate this happened. We are sorry. I mean, showed some real remorse, because at the end of the day, you may have a good child. You may have done everything that you could to raise this child in a safe environment and give this child a better life. But this child still killed another child. There's a mother who will never tuck her son in again at night. There's a father that will never take his son fishing or take his son to shoot. They're gone. At least if Karmelo is locked up, you'll still be able to go and see your child. I realize it hurts. As a parent, I wouldn't want to go see my child behind bars, but I would be very grateful that my child wasn't dead. And so I don't feel like they actually took a stance of, I really, really hate that this happened and that my son was the culprit. I just don't feel like I got that from them. And I do know that they have been conditioned by society. The way that so-called father stood there dressed like Farnsworth Bentley and never opened his mouth to say a word, I thought was disgusting. As the father, as the leader of the household, I feel like he could have set the tone, and instead he allowed this person who couldn't speak, who lacked grammar skills, to talk for them and just set a tone that as if they were pit against each other, saying that Austin Metcalf's dad shouldn't have been there, as if he's the enemy. He's not the enemy. And I think it was a perfect opportunity to show some type of unity and show two kids here lives were changed forever. One lost his life and one's life has been changed forever. Even if he gets off, he'll be known as Karmelo Anthony, the kid that killed Austin Metcalf. So their lives have been changed, and I think that it was a missed opportunity to bring some type of unity and to say, this is not what we want for the future of children anywhere. Not just our kids, anywhere. And it was missed because of the whole black, white, we're enemies narrative that we continue to paint.
Austin Metcalf's father, Jeff Metcalf, said that he would have loved to have made some joint statement with them about unity and how this wasn't about race. And obviously they declined, told him to leave, told him he wasn't wanted there. It's amazing. Jeff Metcalf left a place where he wasn't wanted without stabbing anyone. Hats off to him. But there was an opportunity to do something very unifying, and that man had said he forgave their son, and it should have been greeted with some sort of gratitude that he was trying to de-escalate the situation. They're trying to escalate the situation because there is financial benefit. The more of a victim they are, the more threats. They hear cash registers ringing. And I know that sounds crass and crude, but I do believe that. They hear cash registers ringing, and it's just like, hey, we got to cash in here. Yes, it's a bad situation, but we need to cash in here because these lawyers are going to be expensive. Our job opportunities will possibly be limited because our son has dirtied up our name so much. And it's never made sense to me, and it'll never get asked because they're being treated as victims. But I'm trying to figure out how a guy making $72,000, $80,000 a year and with a stay-at-home wife and 3 or 4 kids, how's he doing all of this? How's he doing? And it feels like he's going to do it initially by or moving forward by leveraging this black racial idolatry, this black victimhood mentality into talking people into giving him money to support and finance his lifestyle. Pretty amazing what they're doing and what they're pulling off. Shamika, I want to pivot to Kanye West before we get out of here. Kanye West, wow, what a tweet! I don't know what to think of this. I don't know what to make of this.
Can you even read it?
Kanye has. Well, we're gonna try. Kanye tweeted out yesterday about a song he made called Cousins. This song is called Cousins, about my cousin that's locked in jail for life for killing a pregnant lady a few years after I told him we wouldn't look at dirty magazines together anymore. Perhaps in my self-centered mess, I felt it was my fault that I showed him those dirty magazines when he was 6, and then we acted out what we saw. My dad had Playboy magazines, but the magazines I found in the top of my mom's closet were different. My name is Yi, and I sucked my cousin's penis till I was 14. That's a lot. I'm gonna collect my thoughts even more, and I thought about this yesterday, but I'm gonna ask you to fire first. What is that? What's going on with Kanye?
You know, maybe it was fate that Kanye had to get his jaws wired shut. I mean, I just thought this was a loaded tweet. And I was a bit confused because initially I was thinking, was Kanye assaulted? But then he said, I feel responsible. In the beginning, he said, I feel responsible for showing him these magazines when he was 6, I think is what he said. So I'm like, well, maybe Kanye was older and he was doing this to a younger child. And it was just so much. One of the things, first of all, I do think that Kanye is an attention whore. I've said this before, and I think that he does say things to get attention and to push his brand, and it's all a marketing ploy. On the flip side, I do like that he kind of is giving attention to this because I think it happens so much and we rarely talk about it. We've had so many kids have sexual experiences at such a young age, a lot of them homosexual, and we just sweep it under the rug and we don't say anything about it, and then they have to function and go through life, and it's very difficult for them. So for me, it touched on both things. One, it was Kanye, and I just hate that he does things like this. But 2, I think that it could spark a conversation that's really important and we need to have.
So I'm glad we're having this discussion because you went where I was going, but was a tiny bit like, can people handle where I'm going to go with this? And so I'm going to play devil's advocate here and try to come up with what Kanye was thinking here and what he may be doing. He would argue that his post is an anti-pornography post and that he's using himself as the example and copying, being transparent. Here's what pornography did to me. And he's saying that we have this society that has said, hey, pornography is not obscene, and that it's okay, and it can, and we can have an appropriate amount of pornography, and we can sexualize kids. And he's saying, like, man, when I was a kid, and Kanye's probably 45, I would think, you know, he's 12 years younger than me. He's saying that when he grew up, it was dirty magazines. And I found some really dirty magazines in my mother's closet. My dad had Playboy. My mother, in her closet, she had dirtier magazines. And she's saying, by looking at this pornography and looking at it with my cousins, and we were little kids, we saw these magazines and acted out what we saw in these magazines. And so if you're in the right frame of mind, you're just like, well, in comparison, what he saw in a magazine isn't close to what can be found on people's iPhones, smartphones, on the internet, at the click of a hat. You can get real detailed pornography in 4K. They almost probably got pornography that you can smell the inside of the room while you're watching it. Who knows? But he's saying these magazines caused little kids to act out what they saw, and then he's going, I'm going to be even more transparent. We were blowing each other, is basically what he's saying. And this is an extreme level of transparency. I guarantee you, in Kanye's mind, he thinks he's provoking a conversation about pornography. If we were willing to have that discussion, but we're not. And so the discussion we'll have is how crazy Kanye is, rather than a discussion about pornography and what he's really saying. We're going to have a conversation about Kanye's sanity and not the insanity of the fact that we've gone so far with pornography that we've seen little kids look at magazines and act out what they say. And now we're seeing pornography everywhere on the internet, in everybody's phone, available to everybody. And we're wondering why our kids have gender identity issues, sexuality issues. It's very uncomfortable what Kanye's doing, and particularly as a black person, because we as black people love to pretend like child molestation, that's not our issue. That's white people's issue. And that narrative on that is completely wrong. Anywhere there's a breakdown of family, anywhere there's no mom and dad in the home together, anywhere there's neighborhoods where mom and dad are not together and kids are running wild, you're going to have sexual dysfunction among the kids. I'm not defending Kanye. I'm just giving us a different point of view on perhaps what he's trying to do. Your thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, I have blinked an eyelash or something into my eye. I apologize. But I do think we act as if child pornography and pedophilia and molestation doesn't happen in the Black community. I see so many times people turn a blind eye to it. And I'll have to say, because I didn't experience my uncles touching me or, adults touching me as a child, I was kind of oblivious to it until I became an adult. And I started to hear so many women talk about being abused, sexually abused as children. And then it became aware, I became aware of it, but not even just the women, the men who were touched by older women. And it was applauded because it was looked at as if it was cool, like, oh, you know, you got this older woman, she's after you, or oh, you had sex with this older woman. And we don't realize what we're opening these kids up to. I actually know men who are gay who were touched by other men as children who don't want to be gay, but because that was their first sexual experience and their bodies responded or reacted to it, they felt like they had to be gay. And so they just continued this gay lifestyle. And now as adults, they are crying out saying, I don't want to be an F word. I mean, these are their exact words. I want to get married. I want to have a family. I want to grow old with someone. I want this woman to take care of me in my old age. And I can't have that because of what I experienced as a child. And here I am trying to comfort them the best I could because I wouldn't want you, you know, but there may be some woman out there who won't mind that you've lived a gay lifestyle and is now ready to change your life, who would be willing to marry you and have children. And I just think that we really have to talk about some of the things that happen. As you say, we have had so many households broken down. Parents are not being able to parent the way that they should. If the father is off and he's gone and he's not in the home and the mother is working 10 to 12 hours a day, you can't possibly know everything that's going on with your child. When you come home, you're tired, you make them some dinner. Sometimes you don't know and you don't have that conversation to say, this is what's happening to me. And I think that we need to stop making everything black and white because that's what we're doing. I saw people tweet out, I was raised in the black community and I don't know what Kanye West is talking about. You're a liar. You're a liar. I believe everybody knows someone who experienced had a sexual experience as a child that they should not have had. And I just think people are lying when they act as if this doesn't happen in the black community. What I think doesn't happen is the conversation, but the acts certainly happen.
It happens. It's never discussed. But for the grace of God, if we hadn't moved when our apartment or whatever it was we were living in, me and my mother and my brother, it hadn't gotten broken into and inspired my mother to move us out of this neighborhood where it was very matriarchal, I'm telling you, it would have happened to me. And I say that in all seriousness. And if it had happened to me, I'm telling you, I'd cop to it, but it didn't. But it would have happened had we stayed there long enough because there were predators in our neighborhood. And I've tried to explain to you all in terms of that mentality. And we moved when I was in third grade, or at the beginning of my third grade year. And they were turning me into a predator. We played a game. We did not play hide and go seek. We played hide and go get it. And it was boys and girls, and you played hide and go get it, and girls would go hide in the woods that was close to the area, and boys would hunt them down and get it. And just keeping it all the way real. When we moved out into a working class neighborhood where it was more family structured and there were more intact families and there was just a different culture among intact families, it's like I had to be deprogrammed. I wanted to bring hide and go get it out to a neighborhood that played hide and go seek. And you know, in fourth grade, I think my mother had to come up to the school. They had to call him because we'd have indoor recess where I would get people circled up, get the girls taking their clothes off. This is in fourth grade. I had to be deprogrammed. And thank God for my grandmother. Thank God for 25th Street Baptist Church. Thank God for God having a bigger plan for me that I was able to move away from that mentality and get mentally healthy. But I'm just telling you, the customs, the culture, the normal behavior inside these communities where there are no fathers and it's all matriarchal. And, you know, people got 2 and 3 kids and, you know, thank God my mother only had me and my brother. We both had the same daddy. They were married when we were but, you know, it's like not like my mother had 2 or 3 different kids with 2 or 3 different baby daddies. There's just blessings and plans that God had for me that as an adult I can now understand. As a kid, I just thought I got lucky. But it's just not talked about. And the number of predators that female predators, and when you have a demographic, and I'm just keeping it all the way real because we don't talk this way. When you have a demographic that's average weight is checking in at 180, 190, 200 pounds. That's not attractive, particularly for a woman. A guy can survive being overweight better than a woman can being overweight. And so when you in a neighborhood with 190-pound women everywhere, sexually frustrated, and you got 12 and 13 and 14-year-old young boys that they can babysit, they can do this, they can do that. It's a nightmare scenario. It's not talked about. And when you don't have parents, you don't have reporting because the parents are too busy to report what they're actually seeing or what their kids are experiencing. And so we get to run around with this little myth that like, oh, in all these single parent neighborhoods and communities, oh, there's no sexual molestation going on. It's a lie. And when you look at these kids and why they have the attitude that they have, why they don't seem to like anybody, they were abused as kids and never go through therapy, counseling. It's never addressed inside their church. If they go to church, it's all ignored and it'll all just go away. And, you know, I survived. Anywho, Shamika, I want to, before, if you have a reaction to that, I got one more thing I want to do before we get out of here. But and you don't have to have a long reaction. We can move on. I just want to give you a chance if there was something else you wanted to say.
No, Jason, I agree. We especially turn a blind eye when the woman is the predator. We see that all the time as we see more of these women come up on the news, their teachers or their staff at the school, and they come out and we find out they've been messing with the students. I just saw recently where the woman had the male student massaging her feet, saying that she was teaching him about foreplay. It's so inappropriate, but we turn a blind eye to it and we only slap women on the wrist for it. We don't actually put them behind bars and give them the punishment they deserve for doing it to these young boys. And we act as if these young boys then are supposed to be able to grow up and go through life normally. We have no protection over young boys. And I would go as far as to say young Black boys. We don't care about how they feel and the things that they have to deal with day in and day out, and we expect them to grow up and just be functional adults when not only have they dealt with molestation, they've dealt with a mother a lot of times who is bitter and angry and very harsh to them, and then we wonder why they turn out the way that they do. I think we need to have an honest discussion, a real look into that, and start getting these women and penalizing them and punishing them the way they need to be.
Jamaica, I got one more thing I want to play before we get out of here. Shannon Sharpe has issued a public statement as it relates to the allegations against him. I want to play, there's 2 videos I think I'm being told. Let's play them in the order, Justin, that you think is most appropriate. Maybe we play them back to back. I don't know how long these are. You give me a hint, but let's play the one you think I should see first. This is all happening live, or he just put out these statements. Let's play the first one first, and we'll react to that. Then we'll play the second video.
Anything I say, you're just gonna like get mad at, and you're just gonna hang up on me. So I feel like
I'm not gonna hang up on you. Here's what it is.
What does that even mean?
Nothing, Gabby. You want to be a dick to me now, so.
I don't want to be. Don't manipulate me.
Oh, Lord have mercy. If you say that one more time, I'm going to choke the out of you when I see you. Thank you.
Well, I don't want to be choked.
Yes, you do. I don't think you have a choice in the matter.
To my family, friends, supporters, and colleagues, I want to speak to you directly and from the heart. This is a shakedown. I'm going to be open, transparent, and defend myself because this isn't right. This is all being orchestrated by Tony Busby, who has targeted Jay-Z. Tony Busby targets black men, and I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of a sex tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine. That video should actually be 10 minutes or so. Hey, Tony, instead of releasing your edit, put the whole video out. I don't have it, or I would myself. You know what happened, and you're trying to manipulate the media. The encounter in question took place during the day at her invitation, and now that appears to be a deliberate setup, coordinated by Gabby, also known as Carly on OnlyFans. Gabby and Tony Busby want $50 million. What they're getting is sued for defamation and trying to take me down. My career is all about real talk and honesty. I know my family and fans know exactly what this is about. And I'm going to be out there telling you whatever I need to say, just like I always do. I love all you guys. Thanks.
All right, so that's Shannon Sharpe reacting to an audio tape that they released of his conversation with this woman that's accused him of rape and talking about choking her. And there's a couple. One of my initial thoughts is that Shannon has put on his inside voice, his, hey, this is who I really am. Now that, he's taken all the ghetto-ness out, all the country boy out, and now, so we're seeing an authentic version of Shannon Sharpe. He plays a character on television and in his public space, but you now just heard Shannon Sharpe. When the rubber meets the road and it's time to get real, that's who Shannon Sharpe is. But he plays a character. And a lot of times a character takes on a life of its own that's out of control and will get the real person in a lot of trouble. So when he's talking to the young woman, he's not playing, and he's playing that character, he's in this audio tape threatening to choke her. Tony Busby is doing what Shannon says. Hey, play the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. And maybe I would have loved to have heard Shannon explain what the whole context of that conversation was. I would love that explanation where you could tell someone, hey, you want to get choked, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say this, these are just facts. It's not the first time I've heard a young woman, claim choked by Shannon Sharpe. Not the first time. And, we work together at Fox Sports. There's other people that have heard, this, again, I left Fox Sports in 2020. This woman he's talking to here, they didn't meet till 2023. Not trying to take a side here, but Tony Busby is trying to stir up and encourage others. That's his MO. Shannon has immediately gone to Tony Busby is trying to tear down another black man. And it's Deshaun Watson, it's Jay-Z. If I were Shannon, I think I would be very careful about aligning myself with Jay-Z or any of these rappers because Tony Busby may have missed on Jay-Z at the moment. But I tend to think that, Jay-Z's relationship with Diddy and all that, I would be very careful of I'm gonna lump myself in with Deshaun Watson and Jay-Z and Tony Busby is, just out to get us black men. He's out doing the bidding of women, and many of these women as relates to Jay-Z, Diddy, Deshaun Watson. I believe many of them were black women. So that's my initial reaction there. Be careful about aligning yourself with Jay-Z. Go ahead and give us the full explanation of what the context is around that audio tape. And Shannon, how come we can't get that Shannon Sharp more consistently all the time? It's very professional. Why is it that you're required to or choose to play a buffoonish role in the kind of ghetto, good old country boy, and over at Fox Sports, weed smoking, do-rag wearing, Hennessy drinking, minstrel clown? All of this very interesting. Don't want to take a side. These things are very complicated. Tony Busby is a Gloria Allred type figure. You can't get into this mindset of believe all women, but I'm not sure if this, Shannon and them fired at this woman. Not surprised they fired back with an audio tape. I'm not sure if posting this video was a smart play for Shannon Sharp. Shamika, your thoughts?
When I heard the video, I went through a range of emotions, honestly, Jason. And when I heard the video, my first thought was, I'm going down. I was like, okay, Shannon is going down. But as I'm hearing the video, I'm wondering when he says put out the entire video, what the context was, because what kind of choking are we talking about? It's not always bad. So I just really want to get more information because I am one of these people that I don't believe all women. I do feel like women come for money. I don't like when women hold these type of allegations and don't say anything for years. I understand the whole I may be afraid, but tell somebody. You didn't tell your best friend or anyone that can actually corroborate the story. I just don't like when this happens. So I am going to be one of these people to wait to see what information comes out, because I do think that he could have been saying, you want me to choke you when I see you, and it's like a little game they play because she's been bad, and that's all I'm gonna say.
It sounds a little Andrew Tate-ish, but let's play that clip, the first one again. I want to hear that one more time.
Anything I say, you're just gonna get mad at, and you're just gonna hang up on me. So I feel like
I'm not gonna hang up on you. Here's what it is.
what does that even mean?
Nothing, Gabby. You want to be a dick to me now, so.
I don't want to be. Don't manipulate me.
Oh, Lord have mercy. If you say that one more time, I'm gonna choke out of you when I see you. Thank you.
Well, I don't want to be choked.
Yes, you do. I don't think you have a choice in the matter.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You're 55, 56 years old. You're playing sexual games with a 19, 20-year-old woman. At some point, you got to age out of it, and you gotta. And trust me, there's not a man alive, certainly not me, that doesn't understand the attraction to a younger woman. I get it. But the other part of this, Shannon, in his statement, said that she was an OnlyFans person. And so he's shopping at OnlyFans. And when she says $25,000 a cheek, she might be talking about a price tag that for clapping the cheeks. And just it with that much spotlight on him, he's playing a dangerous game. 19, 20-year-old girl on the phone having these types of conversations. again, she's manipulating her. You know, he's rich, famous, on TV. You know, he has an emotional edge over her, a financial edge over her. I'm gonna give you the final thought, and then we're gonna leave it alone.
Jason, I definitely think Shannon should have been smarter. Clearly, she was trying to coax him into saying something because she was recording. And I don't feel sorry for him for falling into the trap, because at his age, you should definitely be thinking about what you're doing. At his age and who he is, and he's famous. Like, you have to carry yourself a certain way. I can remember, I think it was 2018, 2019. I was in LA with a popular actor who will not be named. And we were out and we were walking through, through the beach and looking at these nice homes that had the balconies on the rooftop or whatever. You know, they had these rooftop patios and they were really nice. And he said, you know, that would be a great place to make love. And I said, oh, absolutely. And he said, but that's not something I can do because of who I am. And he said to me, that's not even something you can do because of who you are. And he just began to school me. 2019, I'm not even this big popular person. I'm not on mainstream television. But he said there's a certain way that you're going to have to carry yourself because of who you are. You can't talk to everybody. You can't be in every circle. You can't do everything. And since that time, I have made sure that I was conscious of that at every move that I made. You know, I'm not on every scene. I'm not at every party. And if I'm there, I am paying attention. Who has a phone out? Who's trying to record? Who do I date? Who do I go to dinner with? Who do I talk to on the phone? What are they saying? What are we talking about? You do have to carry yourself a certain way when you are doing, you know, you're in certain circles. So I don't feel sorry for Shannon in that respect, because he should have been wiser and he just wasn't. I know I laugh at you a lot of times and I say, oh, Jason, you're so paranoid. But I even learned from you and the way that you carry yourself. There's just certain things that you can't do. And the fact that you were on the phone with someone who was recording you and this is somebody you laying down with is crazy to me. But lesson learned, and it may be an expensive lesson at that.
Every public figure, every person, public life, private life, and personal life, you need to have all three. And you as you get older, you should become wiser, and you just can't be as reckless. And even when you're single, and Shannon Sharpe is single, I'm single, you gotta be more careful, but maybe you don't. And so, Shamika, thank you so much. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll end on this note. Maybe you don't. Maybe Shannon Sharpe will benefit from this. That this controversy, we've seen it. Kim Kardashian has built a $1 billion industry and business off of this type of controversy, this type of sexual misbehavior. So maybe this will work out for Shannon Sharpe. All right, we'll play some Harmony, and we'll see you next time.
How did we end up so divided? Stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for downfall.